Thanks for joining us here on Joy News Prime. Now, chairperson of the newly constituted governing board of the AIDS Commission, Dr. Afriye, says activities of mining companies is endangering HIV/AIDS and working against Ghana's quest to eliminate the disease by 2030. After decades of campaign and sensitization, it is estimated that 21,000 people die annually from the virus in Ghana, depriving the country of the much-needed productive segment of its population. Though the country has made progress in meeting the SDG target of ending the virus by 2030, Dr. Afriye, who doubles as the Minister for Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation, says the virus has persisted because of the indiscriminate activities of miners operating within the communities.
21,000 people die annually. Imagine about 400 STC or VIP buses plunging into a ravine or a river, the Volta Lake, so to speak, and dying per annum. That's how many people. And they are some of the most productive segments of our society. That is why we must invest in that area and not relent. After acquiring all this knowledge, if we allow that kind of those people to have early deaths, even from the economic models, we will not have done good to our society. Mr. Vice President, there are a lot to say, but suffice to say that I will be coming to you as chairperson so that we remind government that you give us the funding. But it doesn't mean that you should come for central government. It is not lost on me that those segments of society or the economy whose activities engender transmission of HIV/AIDS have been left off the hook. I'm being specific. Those in the mining industry, because the red hot zones, the hotspots of HIV/AIDS is related to the mining communities. Unless maybe in the last few years where I haven't said the epidemiology has changed. So they must have, we must take money from them to invest. Apart from the pneumoconiosis and the dust and whatnot that they throw would cause other diseases, HIV/AIDS is a social problem, and among other things like alcoholism and all, chronic poisoning and all that, their activities endanger HIV/AIDS, so we must take money from them.
Let's get some more details from the chairperson of the newly constituted governing board of the AIDS Commission, Dr. Afriye, who joins us on the phone. Thank you so much, sir, for your time here on Joy News Prime. Now, first of all, we've heard your concerns. We'll get into that shortly. But would you say that the measures put in place will ultimately bring us to the place of achieving the target, that is the 3.3 target of the SDG that seeks to end the epidemic by the year 2030?
I'm very, very hopeful. Thank you and good evening to you all. But I'm very, very hopeful that we can. When we take the history of epidemics, this target that has been set is not something which cannot be achieved. It can. But of course, we have to work at it. And you profile HIV/AIDS because it's tied in with human sexual activity. It's a very, very difficult proposition. But if we work at it, I'm very, very sure that we can, achieve our target.
But despite your optimism, there appears to be some development that could obstruct this success, and you are specific in your observation, that is the activities of mining communities. Now, how does this new board intend to deal with this, social problem?
Yes, of course. Most, the issue of HIV, as much as it's a medical problem, it's mostly a social and cultural problem. So right now that we are dealing essentially with a chronic, or if you like, an endemic disease, we have to take the social dynamics and the cultural dynamics very, very, very serious. And that is why the mining communities are very, very important, because the way the humans behave in that setting, we have to make sure that we get them to understand that they have to attenuate their lifestyles and anything that will lead them into that kind of situation. We have a handle on them so that the prevalence is reduced towards zero that we envisage.
And we've been digging up some data on, HIV/AIDS and its prevalence from the commission that you're chairperson of. We'll be putting that up shortly. But you talk about the activities. Can you give us some more detail about these activities you talk about in these mining areas that are exactly contributing or derailing the efforts that you are making at achieving the SDG targets?
You know that the activities as the sexual workers, that is where the hotspots of sexual, workers' activities. I'm talking about commercial sexual workers.
Okay.
And so we have to make sure that we provide them with all the tools that they have. They have to use condoms. We have to educate them. They have to refrain from unprotected sex. And then their clients too have to be, of course, with regard to even the commercial sexual workers, they have periodic screening and have to take care of themselves and their consorts or their clients too, likewise. And we also have to advise them how to protect themselves. And so those activities will likely lead to the desired outcomes or the outcomes that we desire.
So largely unprotected or indiscriminate sexual activities. Doc, I would want you to hold the line for me. Let's look at the data we pulled out from the commission, and then we'll come to you and talk more about the solution, which is getting the miners themselves involved in addressing this. And so we picked this from the Ghana HIV Fact Sheet 2022 from the AIDS Commission, and it is estimated that the number of people living with HIV as of the year 2020 stands at 346,120. Now, we'll look at the next slide, which will give us some more details. So we'll do a comparison. We're looking at 2019 and 2020. So you see a marginal increase there. In 2019, 342,307, as against the current figure or the 2020 figure of 346,120. So you see some difference of over 4,200 from this statistics. Now, we look at the gender mix, and Doc, I'm sure you're very interested in this. Now, when you look at the gender mix, females constitute 66% of the 2020 figure we brought to you. 66% of people living with HIV are females, and we have 34% being male. And so that is the gender mix from the data we're getting from the Ghana AIDS Commission. Let's look at the next slide, which gives us a breakdown of the total number of AIDS-related deaths. And so we are seeing that as of the year 2019, 13,619 people died from HIV or HIV-related deaths, which is the more appropriate way to put it. And in 2020, 12,756. Now, it's important to note that whilst you're seeing an increase in the prevalence, as we saw in the previous slide, there's a decrease when it comes to the number of people who are dying as a result of HIV or related activities. And this is attributed largely to the use of antiretroviral drugs and the fact that more people are being screened and checking for HIV and generally seeking medical attention. When you read the data, it will give you, those details as well. Now, here's the regional breakdown, which is also very interesting, and that will corroborate to some extent the points that the chairperson has been making. The Ashanti region is leading with 73,245 cases. Next is the Greater Accra region with 70,000. That's quite close, 855. We come down to the Eastern region, then to the Western region. The Central region follows. The Volta region, the Bono Ahafo, Bono East, Western North, the Ahafo region, the Upper East, Northern region, Oti region, Upper West, Savannah, and the Northeast region with the least number of cases when it comes to HIV per this 2020 data. Now, the next slide, we'll look at the district, and this is the top 10 districts. We selected them for you just to put this in perspective, and you'd see that Dr. Afriye has a point there. So Lower Manyakrobo is leading with 6%. Now, Lower Manyakrobo is not a mining community, but if you look at the data from the Ghana AIDS Commission, it's been leading for some time now. That is quite a peculiar situation there. We'll find out why that is happening. And same for Upper Manyakrobo as well. But Tano South, Esiojaman, Yilo Krobo is also not. Tema is an urban area here in the Greater Accra region. But New Joabin South is a mining area. Then you have Obuasi, East, and then Etiwa East. And so out of the top 10, you can point about 4 that, are mining communities that actually do have, leading cases of HIV/AIDS in the country. So that is certainly a cause for worry and corroborates the point that Dr. Afriye is making. But Doc, you make the point about roping in the miners or the mining community in trying to address this. How confident are you that they are willing? What sense do you get from them about their willingness and readiness to contribute to this campaign?
Before I come to that, we're listing some districts.
Yes, sir.
But let me also point out to you that because of migration, and if you know the sociology and the history of the way HIV is evolved, in Ghana, people who are traveled to do commercial sex activity in La Côte d'Ivoire and Nigeria, for example, and where they came from, sometimes when they get an illness, then they retire to their communities. So there are several determinants. So when we said the mining communities, when you do the segregation, it may even turn out that some of the districts where there are no mining activities, apparently, those who have the disease, and when they have the overt disease, naturally they go back to their hometowns for psychosocial support.
Okay.
That is why some districts, there are no mines there, but they have a high prevalence rate. But to talk about the mining communities, yes, we are engaging them. I know the AIDS Commission has been engaging them and doing a lot of work there. But we have to, up our activities there, and then also treat them, the models that we've been using to treat the wider Ghanaian community. We have to be very aggressive in those areas, and then also go into details and factor in several determinants about this. This drug culture too is in these same mining areas. Cocaine, weed, and so on and so forth. So when they are all tied in, it's a very neat thing, and there are so many confounding factors. But when you break them down, and that is when you have a handle. I'm sure that the AIDS Commission, as constituted now, has the tools and the men to do that job. So we will have to zone in. But let me also add that for every epidemic, the last cases are the most difficult to eradicate. If you take the issue of smallpox, polio, measles, whooping cough, it's always been like that. And HIV is, to the extent that it's become a chronic entity, it's also behaving true to type. But I suspect it could even be a lot more difficult to eradicate because it is tied in or associated with, the very, very sensitive and, if you like, desirable human activities, and that is sex. And that is why that might even make it even more difficult to do. But of course, like I said, society has evolved, and we also have evolved, and we know we have the tools and the wherewithal even to deal with it.
Very well.
So I am not daunted at all, and I suspect that we can achieve our target.
Thank you very much, Doc. We'll leave it here and later have a broader conversation on this goal that you set for yourself as chairman of the AIDS Commission. Thank you very much for speaking to us. Now let's engage the General Secretary of the Mine Workers Union, Abdul Mumun Bana, on the phone. Thank you very much, sir, for your time here on Joy News Prime. Let me first take your reaction to the concern raised by Dr. Afriye about the activities in the mining communities that is engendering or, actually thwarting government efforts in dealing with HIV/AIDS.
Well, thank you very much, and good evening to your listeners. I think that some of the pronouncements, particularly from Dr. Afriye, to put it very mildly, I think that it's quite erroneous. First and foremost, HIV/AIDS is a public health issue, and everybody is concerned about it. It is part of the reason why the UN, as part of its SDGs, have thrown the searchlight on HIV/AIDS. But we need to be very cautious the way and manner we go about the narrative, particularly when it comes to the conversation around HIV/AIDS. The last time I checked, matters around HIV/AIDS are supposed to be confidential, particularly because of the stigmatization that comes with it. And so for you to throw the searchlight on mining communities and the fact that mining communities are leading the way when it comes to the spread of HIV, I think that is rather worrying.
Mr. Bana, I'm not sure how the issue of confidentiality comes in when you have already admitted that this is a public health issue that must be targeted.
No, it's a public health issue, but what I'm saying is that we need to be cautious with our pronouncement, because at the end of the day, it is confidential. And if you tag, for example, mining communities and anybody in and around mining communities as susceptible or prone to HIV/AIDS, you know how people generally would view, these mining communities. What I'm saying is that we need to put in interventions where we ought to, but to the extent that we begin to tag, it's something that we need to watch carefully.
Well, he simply raised a concern because he's worked in this industry for a while. Now that he has the opportunity to be on the board of the AIDS Commission, he thinks that it's important to raise, having observed over the years, the activities in the area, and most importantly, would want you to contribute towards this campaign. Your reaction?
Well, it is fair if these observations have been made over a period of time. And I don't think that as citizens of this country, things that are progressive, and for that matter, things that are inimical to the public, and more particularly, the health status of people, should be something that as citizens of this country we should ignore. Certainly, you want to be interested in how we can jointly promote the well-being of the Ghanaian citizenry.
And by contribution, he also means monetary. Well, are you willing to pay?
Yeah, the issue of monetary, I have read bits and pieces of what they intend to do, to raise, some amount of money from CSR budgets of mining companies, particularly within these mining communities. CSR, we can get into that conversation and see to what extent we can all, support this cause. But let me put on record that most of these mining communities most of these mining companies that operate within the mining community have in themselves put in a lot of interventions, not just for their workers, but also for the communities in and around them. I'm very much aware that there are interventions in place, particularly targeting prevention, where, as part of well-being and welfare of employees within these mining companies, and also within the mining community. There are periodic screening to ensure that people are well taken care of, where they have to be put on antiretroviral drugs. Those interventions are all in place. So I do not know to what extent levies will be imposed on mining communities as a way of contributing to the prevention, and in some cases, how we can help to alleviate the current predicament that citizens of this country may be going through as a result of HIV/AIDS. But it's a conversation that will require consultations among stakeholders. And I don't think that mining companies, given their track record when it comes to contribution to CSR, would want to turn a blind eye on. It's a conversation that can be looked at. But to the extent that it becomes an imposition, I do not think that is the way to go. We need to have a consultation and see how together we can look at how to raise, the needed funding to support the Ghana AIDS Commission.
Very well. Thank you very much, Mr. Bana. That's Abdul Momin Bana, the General Secretary of the Mine Workers Union. Charles Kobuna Ansah is an assemblyman at Hotopo electoral area, a mining community in the western region, and he joins me on the phone. It's important to speak to him because it's a mining area, and we also know that the issues of HIV/AIDS are quite prevalent there. Thank you very much, Assemblyman, for joining us. Now, how are miners in your area reacting to this plan to get you to contribute towards reaching that SDG target of eliminating HIV/AIDS by 2030?
Thank you very much. Let me take this opportunity and greet your cherished viewers and to my good people in Ahanta West, Otopo to be specific. Indeed. Areas where there are population of galamsey, some of the challenges that you contribute to the community as well as its developmental issues are concerned. Now, I am at Otopo. I feel like it was just last year, 2021, that we experienced this galamsey operation in my community. And as I'm speaking now, in other hands, it has negatively affected the community. Because you see, they normally dwell with our young girls with their money. And normally with having sexual intercourse with the young girls, usually resulted to teenage pregnancy. And issue about HIV and then predominantly get in touch with this act. So galamsey has really affected the community as I'm speaking.
And what we want to know is whether the miners, you get a sense they are willing to pay to contribute towards this campaign of eliminating HIV by 2030?
Yeah, I think it all boils down to education. If we are able to, stay down with them, about what it is going on, I think we are all ready to contribute. That we can all come together to eradicate these STDs that we are all talking about.
Thank you very much. That's Charles Kobuna Ansah. He's an assemblyman in the Hotopo electoral area. You're watching Joy News Prime with me, Ernest Mino. Away from